Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you guys a new scenario that I've been working on for the past month or so. Now this is an interesting scenario that changes the way that Space Engineers works a bit. Since most scenarios are mostly story driven and very linear, this scenario makes things a bit differently. This is a minigame scenario that has more emphasis on strategy and teamwork in defense. It is kind of like the never surrender scenario, except that instead of having like a set prep period and you go whenever you want, it starts almost immediately and you kind of just have to figure out how to go with the flow and figure it out. Now, this is inspired a lot by different tower defense games on the internet, and it was also inspired by Starship Troopers, if you're familiar with that. So the scenario as of this moment is not actually uploaded at the recording of this video. It will be recorded soon, but I'm going to be showing you guys how to play the scenario and how to get started in it. Once this video is posted, the scenario should be uploaded, and I'll provide a link so you guys can actually play it on your own time as well. So you will find it in your workshop tab here if you have downloaded it, but since it's not actually uploaded at this time of the recording of the video, I'll be going here to the test version of the scenario that I have here. So it's going to take a little bit to load, and I'd like to mention there are a few mods that are necessary for the scenario to work. The first mod that's completely necessary is the Instant Projector mod. This is the mod that allows you to actually build your defenses, your structures, your vehicles, and everything using projections. The other mod that is 100% necessary is the BTWC pack, because that is the mod that has all of the weapons that are being used in the scenario. And this mod also includes some other things that are used from mechs, but those are not necessarily used in this scenario. The mod is only necessary for the large variety of weapons. Now, there are also a few other mods that are not necessary, such as the compass and the radar, but those are mostly just quality of life mods to make sure the scenario is easier to play in a multiplayer setting, and so you can actually tell your friends where the enemy is coming from, since the scenario can be played either single player or multiplayer with as many people as you'd like. So upon spawning in here, we have of course, the introduction here. Welcome to Bug Defense. You must defend this base to the best of your ability. The base I was talking about is this base here. It's a pretty simple base. It's not the prettiest thing, but this is what we have to protect. And of course, enemies are going to be coming from all sides. You can kind of see some of the projections in the distance from the different spawns that there are from the enemies to come from. So of course, I'll be showing you guys exactly how to play from start to, well, I'm not going to play the whole scenario here. I'm just going to show you guys how to get into it. So right when you start, you're given this introduction, and you can see here it tells you how to play. It tells you to grab a weapon from the area here and to defend the reactor. There's a reactor in the center of this base I'll show you in a bit. There's a button in the next room that you will press in order to begin the resource production process for the base. There are vehicle spawn pads on 3 sides of the base, and there's a tower at the top that allows you to spawn in your defenses. There is a cargo container where you're able to pull ammo for your turrets, and of course, when you actually step into the next room, the waves will actually begin being timed, and the enemies will begin coming. So I will go ahead and show you guys where to find your weapons. So in this room here, you can see there's all these. You can go into each of these, and you can see there's all these different weapons here, and then across them you can see the ammo that they need. Over here you have the handguns, and of course there's a new weapon here if you want to try it, the laser rifle. It does less damage overall, but it's a lot more accurate, faster fire rate, and it also has no recoil, which is handy, but it doesn't do that much damage. Over here you can find some power kits, which will be useful if you need power, and over here you can find med kits to heal your character. Although I will say, if your character dies, you'll respawn in this room and you can grab new gear to hop back into battle. So as soon as I step into this room, there will be a drone outside that will begin flying off to begin the waves. So while that's going on, I'm going to show you guys how to begin the resource production procedure. All you gotta do is just press this button, and the scenario begins. From here you have these 3 LCDs. They look a bit complicated, but I'll show you how simple they are. The game is a little bit loud because of all the background stuff. You can hear it functioning. All the ores being distributed through believe they are collectors, connectors, and a bunch of other things, sorters and stuff. It's building stuff. But from here, you can see an auto crafting screen. From here, it will tell you all the different components that are being made, and you can see how many you have. You start off with 100% resources, so you have maxed out all your resources. However, as you build things, these numbers will go down, and of course over here it's the same exact thing, just in a different display. So you can see how much you have, and as you build things, these will go down. But your base actually has a script built into it that will automatically craft these resources that you need in order to build your defenses. And of course, right here, you can see it tells you how many ingots you have. So of course you can see we have a bunch of iron, and we have some other resources that are slowly increasing over time. And these are what are going to be used to build our components. You can play some music here if you guys want. So now we're going to go over towards the middle here. This is the reactor that you have to defend. If this reactor is destroyed or damaged beyond repair, the entire base loses power and you lose the game. It is also worth mentioning this base is the only respawn point in the entire world in this scenario, meaning that once this base is gone, you are unable to respawn. So you have to defend this reactor to the best of your ability, otherwise you completely lose the game. Over here you have access to some cryopods, so if you need to get your oxygen and energy back up, you can go up here. Another thing worth mentioning is that in this scenario you have access to infinite hydrogen, thanks to the PvP jetpack mod. So what that allows you to do is you can use the jetpack to fly around to do whatever you need, but as soon as you stop down, it will refill slowly by itself. So that's something that'll be really useful in your moving around and fighting enemies. So of course right here, there's this box that says collect ammo here. This box automatically produces ammunition that you will use for your turrets, your vehicles, and basically anything else. And if you want to know where to build turrets, we're actually going to go all the way up here. So if we go all the way up top, up here, we are introduced to this structure here, this tower structure at the top of the base with these yellow lights. This structure is a unique device that allows us to build our defenses, and there are 4 different modules to this. So of course, the first one here is cannons. You can build, of course, your kinetic weaponry here. This varies from the machine gun all the way up to the 500mm long Tom cannon. Over here, you have energy weapons. Energy weapons are they're a bit better for the early game. They require no ammunition, and they only need power to function. So you don't have to refill them at all. They'll keep working until they run out of power. Over here you have missiles, and missiles are great for dealing with more heavily armored enemies or very fast enemies, since some of these missiles are homing and some of them are better for like area of effect, like just damage over an area. So these are great, they do a lot of damage, but of course you do need to reload those missiles. It's also worth noting that of the 3, the energy weapons are typically kind of the weakest. The cannons do tend to do a bit more damage than the energy weapons, and the missiles are fairly mediocre with some of their damage, but they can be very useful for different situations. And of course, there's a lot of variety to each of these weapons, so what I say is not necessarily true for all weapons, but it's just something that's more general. Now, the last one here is your armor and traps. So from here, you're able to build walls, landmines, spotlights, and other things. I'll go ahead and demonstrate how to use this tower. So when you hop onto this seat, you'll see here at the bottom of the hotbar, we have a couple things. If we use the turret controller on the first one here, we are able to rotate the entire tower here. And by rotating this tower, we can actually place our defenses in different locations. As you can see, we have 1 minute until a wave arrives, so what we're going to do is we can use this camera here to actually look around at the arm here. And we can actually see a projection there in the sand of what we're trying to build, which is currently a landmine. So let's say we want to build a bit further. Well, you have pistons here, 2, 3, and 4. These are different pistons to allow you to build in 3 different rings, an inner ring, a middle ring, and an outer ring. Well, technically there are 4 rings you can build with these pistons. So let's say you want to build about 2 rings out, so you can extend 2 and 3, and it'll extend these pistons, making it so this arm, or these all arms, extend out by that much. And that allows you to place your defenses out further away from the base. So you can layer your defenses however you like. Now, if you want to build a specific defense, you want to go ahead and use number 9 here, which is to actually build that defense. But we're not gonna go there just about yet. We want to go ahead and show you how to choose your defenses, because each of these actually have multiple things. As you can see, the wave just began, and there will be some enemies coming towards us. So in the second hotbar here, you can see we have these timers, and each of these timers corresponds to a different, well, defense or turret you want to build. So you can select whatever you'd like. Like, let's say we want to build just a simple spotlight so we can see better at night. Well, you select the spotlight, you can see it's right there in front of us, and we want to build it right there. And you can see it says projection will be spawned in 2 seconds. And now we have a spotlight, which will go out there and help us to see at night. Each of these projections, depending on how powerful they are, take a different amount of time. Some of them take a few seconds, some of them take a few minutes, and some of them can go up to about 10 minutes to build, depending on how powerful or expensive that structure may be. So let's go ahead and build a light wall right here, number 3. And we want to go ahead and place a light wall right over here. This will take 10 seconds to build. So you can see it's going to build. If something is in the way, it will actually just spawn nearby. You can see that there are some spotlights built into the base itself that will tell you where the nearest enemy is. If an enemy gets too close to the base, you will hear an alarm telling you that there is an enemy nearby. So you do want to keep enemies away. It's quite useful if you want to know if there's an enemy directly up against your base. So the reason why I built this wall here is to demonstrate something interesting you can actually do with your weapons. So you'll notice that some of these projections are actually really high off the ground, and the reason for that is because you can actually build your defenses on top of each other. For example, let's say I want to place this machine gun turret directly on top of this light wall. I can do that just like this. So now it spawns in, and you can see we have a machine gun on the wall. And of course the machine gun won't do anything unless you provide it with ammo. So I'm going to go ahead and step inside, and I'm going to go ahead and give it some ammo. So if I go inside here and go towards this, I can actually grab some machine gun ammo. I'll take 10 of them. And we're just going to go ahead and put them inside of the turret here. And this turret will begin defending within a certain range. As you can see, there are some enemies approaching here.
Warning, enemy detected.
Yep, we got some very small exploding enemies in the first few waves. Alright, so turrets can only turn left or right about 90 degrees. So these defenses will actually, they're completely unable to shoot behind them, because then they will shoot the base. So it's worth noting you have to place your defenses in such a way where your defenses can repel the enemies and make sure they don't get behind and at the base itself. Anything that gets past the turrets will have to be dealt with by hand, which can be quite painful at times. Or you can just use a vehicle. It's also worth noting that the base does repair itself and it will repair other structures in the area. It will not replace already destroyed or broken blocks, but it will do its best to repair damaged blocks on itself and on other structures. So I'm going to go on to the vehicle pads here. So there are 3 different vehicle pads. You have one right here on the east side for mechs, and there's a large variety of mechs here. It goes all the way to the exosuit, all the way over to the skimmer. So there's a lot of different variety you can choose. There are 8 of them. And of course, you can just press any of these buttons to go and select whichever mech you want to build. And once you have your mech built, you can go ahead and pilot the mech however you'd like. These mechs are all very simple and easy to build. By pressing this button, you can begin spawning, and it'll take some time, and it'll use resources from the base to build it. These all have enough gyros, so you don't have to worry about them falling over, because you can easily get back up.
Warning, enemy
So
detected.
now we're going to go to the other side where we didn't place any defenses. We'll just ignore that. And we're going to look at the rovers. So for the rovers here, we have another 8 vehicles here, ranging from the dune buggy all the way over to the mobile artillery. And you can just press these buttons to choose whichever one you'd like, and you have some variety in multiplayer vehicles as well. So you can choose to solo the scenario, or you can play with friends, and of course you can have like a gunner and a driver, or like a however you like. You get an APC and bring a bunch of your friends around to places. There's a lot of different ways you can do things. If you go over here towards where we had an explosion, there's air vehicles you can spawn as well, ranging from the strike fighter going all the way over to an interceptor. So you can again, you can just press any of these to select whichever vehicle you want, and it will go ahead and display it for you. And if you press that button, it will begin building that vehicle as long as you have the resources. So if you go on over here, you can see there is something that's in the projection that will respawn in a few seconds, and we can see here that our mech is going to be built. So as opposed to the other vehicles, which are pretty easy to pilot in almost any setting, the mechs here are fairly simple if you know what to do. If you're piloting a mech, it's simple WASD control. So if you hold W, it will begin walking forward. And if your mech falls over, you do not have to worry, because if you manage to fall on your face, you can use the gyroscopes to get back up. Pretty simple. And different mechs have different abilities. Every vehicle is unique in its own way. For example, this jumper mech can have the ability to fly for very short amounts of time. Alright. I'll go ahead and just leave this here. You can choose to sit at the base to defend from all sides to start building your defenses. You can build vehicles to go a bit more out and fight the enemies. You can also use your handguns here to go ahead and attack the enemies. Now what you will notice is that there is a timer on one of the bases over there that'll tell you when the next wave is coming. So every 5 waves a new enemy or a new enemy wave will approach. In this scenario, there are about 20 different types of enemies. There are 40 waves. That's about 3.5 hours of gameplay, not counting for sim speed. Because the sim speed will go down as there's a lot of enemies that'll be approaching. And of course, these are the starter waves, so there will be significantly more enemies in the later waves. There are about, let me check. There's about 26 different types of turrets you can spawn in this scenario, and there are of course 24 different vehicles you can spawn in. So of course there are 8 vehicles per spawn pad. And yeah, there is a lot of variety to how you can choose to defend this base. And if you play this scenario, it will by default be in survival mode. But if you want to do more of a creative free play mode, you can actually change the scenario to creative mode, which will give you infinite resources to build your defenses however you like. However, by default it is in survival mode. Yeah, I guess that's about it in the scenario. I look forward to seeing how well you guys do in playing this scenario, and I wonder if anyone will actually be able to beat all 40 waves of this scenario. Yeah, that's about it. We'll just go ahead and exit here, and we'll see what happens. Alright. Take care and have a good one.